episode number 86 of the St0ner Sports Radio podcast. 86, baby. Love to 86 it up. We are live here in the St0ner Sports Radio studios. Joining me once again is friend and co-host Zach Huffman, back at the Huffman Cave. Big week for us as we are coming down to the home stretch of the college football season. We'll get you updated on all things going on there. Zach's going to recap OU Missouri. He's been putting this one off. We'll get his thoughts, and then we're headed to the Thunder Update Center with Zach and crew to see how the Thunder are shaping up with the news of Chet Holmgren's injury and the future of the organization. Currently, NFL's Big Deal, No Big Deal is back, and we'll visit the sports book where we've got good news, folks. Good news coming through the sports book. We'll see if we can capitalize on that. Zach, how are we doing on this Be Happy Friday?
Theme of this season, once again, not happy. How can we be after the end of that OU Missouri game? I really just want to jump into it.
Yeah. We'll get to that ASAP. Let's hop into college.
Exactly. I hate it.
We'll get into that. Let's go ahead and start off with college football. We'll get you guys going here. We're going to start here. We'll go through some scores from last week, and then we'll hand it over to Zach to kind of dissect as we go 1 through 25. Starting with the top team in the country, my Oregon Ducks. They get the job done 39-18 over the Maryland Terrapins. 18 second half points, probably the most this season. Anything to take away from this, Zach?
No, obviously not. Nothing really going on here. I think it's interesting that Dylan Gabriel got outthrown yardage-wise. But other than that, no, nothing. They did exactly what they're supposed to do. Defense could have been a little bit better.
Yeah. The defense looked a lot better. I think that's kind of one of those things that gets better as the season progresses with most teams. If you're in that conversation for getting to the playoff, and we see that from multiple teams. Ohio State, another one to mention, the number 2 team in the country, shutting out Purdue 45-0. Purdue 1-6 on the year, not very good year for the Boilermakers. What were your thoughts on this game?
Nothing more than that Purdue was really, really bad this year. A lot more bad than they usually look. And I think that's pretty concerning. However, Will Howard going 21-26, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. Beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful game. I'm starting to envision Oregon, Ohio State being a national championship game.
Very well could be shaping up for that. Eyeballing a rematch, though, in the Big Ten championship right now. That's we got to get over that first. But big week next week for Ohio State. They have Indiana next week, so big time stuff going on there as they have a believed bye week this week. Going down to the number 3 team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs. They lost, Zach, to Ole Miss 28-10. This game wasn't even close. I mean, this was a game where at halftime you were going, okay, Georgia's down again 16-7. Like, no need to panic, right? I mean, they've been in this position before, and then they only score 3 points in the second half. I mean, are we seeing the upsurge of Ole Miss here actually being the team a lot of people thought they were going to be preseason, or is this more about Georgia looking really bad offensively?
My biggest takeaway is that Ole Miss is a good football team, and I think that the SEC is kind of starting to cannibalize itself like we kind of thought it might. When we're looking into the college football playoff now, you're looking at these kind of games like Ole Miss beating Georgia, and all of a sudden you got two losses in the SEC for both of these teams. Then it becomes a question of, can you put a 3-loss team in the playoff? It's ugly. But in terms of Georgia themselves, yeah, offense did not look very good. I think it says a lot about that win against Texas as well. Just focusing more on like what the SEC is going to be looking like representation-wise in the playoff.
Yeah, I agree with you on that completely. And that leads us to another upset. Number 4 team in the country last week, Miami, lost to Georgia Tech on the road 28-23. Second year in a row, Georgia Tech has beat the Hurricanes. What was your takeaway from this? Because for me, the takeaway was Cam Ward couldn't get it done when given multiple opportunities. What was yours?
Had the exact same takeaway. I mean, especially looking late in this game. I mean, there are really just no excuses for not being able to get it done on some of those drives. So yeah, I think Miami's probably still, looking forward into the playoff. But this is an ugly loss. It's a really ugly loss against I'm not going to say bad, but definitely not a good Georgia Tech football team.
Yeah, I mean, we knew after that first game, with that win over Florida State, we thought, oh, maybe this team is better than we thought. But then it ended up Florida State was just way worse than anybody thought. So that kind of devalued that win for Georgia Tech, and they kind of went on a little bit of a skid. And 6-4 is not bad, but like you said, I think that just puts them in the above average kind of category as a football team. So again, bad loss for Miami, but that game ended, Zach, kind of the way you wanted it to, with Cam Ward with the ball with 2 minutes to go and a chance to go down and win it, and he throws a pick.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not something that can come from a 9-year quarterback.
Seems like it. But yeah, big win for the Yellow Jackets. Let's move on to your favorite team, Texas. They blow out Florida 49-17. This was kind of exactly what we thought, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm looking at 5 touchdowns from 20 years, 333 yards. It was a beautiful game from Texas, top to bottom. I kind of thought Florida would put up a little bit more of a fight, considering how they've been playing as of the last couple of weeks, a little bit better and better. But Texas might just be that good.
Yeah, they looked really, really good, and Florida continues to look really bad. So that's kind of the both ends of the spectrum kind of deal with that. Number 6 team in the country, Penn State. They get the win over Washington 35-6. I was kind of surprised that Washington didn't put up more points against Penn State, but again, it's a home game for Penn State. You know, that's a hard environment to go into. And Washington's a 5-5 Big Ten team, so I mean, we kind of figured they were going to lose this game. But were you surprised that there was only 2 field goals put on the board by this Huskies team, or is this kind of just another testament to teams like, these top 10 teams getting better defensively as the season goes on?
Yeah, I think it's that. I think Penn State getting a lot better defensively, just being a lot more disciplined as the year goes on. And Washington's just not a very good football team this year. They lose their head coach. It's just not a good situation.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought maybe they'd score a touchdown. I mean, I didn't think that. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be, as bad as it was. But it was a good performance by Penn State, one they needed after losing to Ohio State previously. The number 7 team in the country, Zach, they were up 20-7 at halftime. It was Tennessee over Mississippi State. The final score there, 33-14. Anything of value to take away from this? I know that Nico got hurt kind of early in that third quarter, kind of midway through maybe. He came back in the end, but Chaney came in and had some relief for him, and it looked okay. I mean, he's a backup quarterback. Was there anything else to really take from this?
I'll say one thing that I'll take from this is that I'm getting more and more impressed by this Jeff Lebby coach Mississippi State team, and I'm thinking he's starting to really get something going here. I know that they're currently 2-8, and no one sits in the SEC, and I know that looks really ugly right now. But if you've been watching this team from the beginning, especially at the end of last year, and you see the introduction of Jeff Lebby, you've already started to see the improvement. And if he can prove that he can recruit and he can get more talent in there, I'm pretty confident that Jeff Lebby can really go out there and make a name for himself as the head coach of Mississippi State, and possibly come back to Norman pretty quickly, because holy shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it right now. I think Mississippi State wins the Egg Bowl this year. I think they can put up enough points against Ole Miss to beat them. I think that
Wow.
I think it's a tough spot for Ole Miss going into that game, and I think that, like you said, we've seen the gradual improvement, and the fact that this game was semi-competitive at halftime gives me a lot of hope. And then coming out in that second half, Mississippi State scored the ball first, so it was 14-20 at one point, and then Tennessee kind of, I wouldn't say ran away with it, but 13 unanswered after that. But it wasn't that impressive to me. The final score doesn't really paint the whole picture for me, Zach, here. Like you said, this Jeff Lebby team, I don't know if I would pick OU to beat this team. I think that right now,
no, one shot.
Yeah, I think right now with the way that offense is looking for Mississippi State with their young quarterback and the way he's been looking, it's like you said, a lot more promising than if you were to ask me 4 or 5 weeks ago how Mississippi State looks, you know?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And just to reflect on that point one more time, I would say that like Georgia State would currently beat Oklahoma. So I don't know how much of a compliment that really is, But I've talked about this before. It's kind of those middle, 10 minutes of the football game. The last 5 minutes of the first half, the first 5 minutes of the second half. That Mississippi State really won there, and I think that's a good coaching, philosophy is being able to get in there and win the middle there to kind of gain momentum going into halftime and kind of ride that momentum going into the second half. And unfortunately, they run into kind of an offensive juggernaut in Tennessee. You're not going to be able to put up much of a fight against them right now, but 2-3 years from now, I think this Mississippi State team, if Jeff Lebby's still there, could be really dangerous.
Yeah, I think he's got that program on the right track, and I think that's going to be. I'm going to say this. I think that Mississippi State will be competitive within the next 3 or 4 years. I think they will be kind of in that middle to upper middle, SEC area if this continues the way it's going. And people are like, well, it's not going well. They're 2-8. But you have to look at the body of work and the amount of points that offense is generating, and you have to assume that he's going to get more of his guys in. You're going to have to assume that recruiting is going to be as good as it probably can be for Mississippi State. That's not really a recruiting destination, so they're going to have to really utilize the portal and utilize their NIL smartly. And I think that there's a lot of players that aren't getting playing time that would like playing time in the SEC. Whether or not they're winning games, it's good for your NFL film. It's good for stuff like that as far as your draft stock goes. So I think that if he can entice some of these young guys to take a chance and say, look, I know you're not starting at, let's say he goes after like the backup running back, for Boise State or something. Like, I know you're not starting, and I know that you could be getting carries. Like, we could use somebody like you or some, there's opportunities here.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, buy stock in this team now.
I mean, Mike Leach was able to make this team okay. They weren't ever great, but they were competitive. And at the end of the year, when they played Ole Miss, you were like, who's going to win this game? That conversation took place more years than it didn't with him at the helm. So we've seen somebody come in with an offensive mind and be able to shape that program down in Starksville to something that's presentable to the public as not bad, but not a playoff team,
Yeah, and I think that if he can get a good defensive guy in there for his DC, recruit. He's got a real, program on his hands that he can really build out and might be, turn into a contender in the SEC.
Yeah, we'll see kind of how that goes. Next year will be another stepping stone. I mean, I think next year if they win 5 or 6 games, if they make a bowl game next year, I think that's a really good sign. I think it's in the realm of possibility too. So don't rule that out next season. I would expect both me and you to be over on the win total for the Bulldogs heading into next season. Look out for that. But I know we spent a little bit too much time on that, but I felt like that was kind of warranted, and we kind of have to give Jeff Lebby his flowers. As bad as Mississippi State's been, I think he's handled that situation as best as one possibly could.
Yeah, and you can just see the steady improvement.
Yeah, which is good, and another thing that I mean, as an OU fan, is that feel a little bit bittersweet that you let him go? Because I feel like letting him go was warranted. I don't think that wasn't the question, but looking at where you're at now and where you were, and looking at Jackson Arnold, where he was and where he is now, do you think removing Jeff Lebby from the equation, even though at the time seemed like a good decision, is it in hindsight 2020 like we shouldn't have done that?
I don't think we had much of a choice. He was going to get offers no matter what. And he was going to take them no matter what. So I think, he got an offer from Mississippi State and he took it. It's not like we fired him.
Yeah.
We never fired Jeff Lebby, but at times I thought we were going to.
I mean, yeah.
He got his head coaching offer, and he's doing what he can with it. So no, I don't necessarily consider it a bittersweet moment. I think if anything, it just kind of improves starts at least the Brent Venables coaching tree, which could be good if Brent Venables continues to be the coach next 2 seasons.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to see where you were kind of at on that, but yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Number 8 team in the country, Zach, your beloved Indiana Hoosiers. They skate by Michigan at home 20-15. This thing kind of came down to a little bit of the wire here. Michigan had multiple chances to actually win this football game. But was this concerning for you as someone who thinks Indiana could necessarily, continue to have a shot at going to the CFP?
Yeah, it's concerning. I don't think it hurts their chances at all yet because they got the win. Although a win this close against a not very good Michigan team is, it's not the best on the resume, but it's not a loss, which is the more important thing, right? You look at teams like Texas, a 3-point win over Vandy. That's nothing great, but it's not a loss, and that's why I don't think that these close wins are going to hurt them at all. Now, if it's a question between them and a team like, say, BYU, or a team like, say, Tennessee, then you're probably looking at that Michigan game and thinking, how much do I think Tennessee wins this game by? How much do I think BYU wins this game by? And that's when it becomes a little bit more concerning. I think it's a question of seeding. But if Indiana, goes into the college football playoff with, one loss and a no conference championship appearance, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be in the playoff other than conference bias for, like the SEC.
Do you think they might have been looking ahead to next week a little bit?
Maybe.
I mean, because I feel like they really want to give Ohio State a game.
Play about. I mean, it's Michigan. You never should play about Michigan. I mean, it's still a great football team, comparatively, but. Yeah, probably.
Okay. Because that was my thought. I thought maybe they were a little bit like, oh, it's Michigan. They haven't been good this year. We're gonna really bring it for Ohio State, and I think maybe that got a little bit better of the Hoosiers. But yeah, like you said, the win's the most important part. I just wanted to see where you thought the trajectory of this kind of performance could possibly take the Hoosier faithful. They don't have a game this week. Ohio State plays Northwestern this week. So Northwestern and Ohio State play. So Ohio State doesn't have a bye, but Indiana does before heading to Columbus. Number 9 team in the country, BYU, they get a last-second victory over Utah, 22-21. Utah's athletic director blamed the referees for this loss. There was a holding penalty defensively that kept a 4th and 10 turnover on downs play alive after it was the quarterback got sacked at the 2-yard line and the flag came out for defensive holding, gave him a first down, and the rest is history. They kicked the game-winning field goal, BYU does, to win the Holy War. A, did you watch this game? B, what were your thoughts?
I only caught the very, very end, and I thought, yeah, they kind of got screwed, Utah. Here's my thing: you can't blame the refs on the loss when you only put up, all your points were put up in the second quarter, and 21 points. Congrats, that's a great quarter, but you got to put up more points somewhere else. So, I think it's just a testament that BYU is out there and is ready to get these tough wins, and I think it's another one of those situations similar to Indiana where you're thinking, okay, Utah's 1-5 in the Big 12. How are we feeling? BYU ranked number 9 right now, getting a 1-point win at the last second off of a questionable call from the referee. I think that they should probably move down a couple slots.
Yeah, the thing for me is, like you said, Utah scores all their points in the second quarter. They get shut out the whole entire second half. And the other thing is, yes, they had a defensive holding call to keep the drive alive, but the ball was still at the 18-yard line of BYU. They still had to march 60 yards to kick that field goal. It's like you had multiple chances to prevent even that from happening. And I think that people kind of, don't think about that at all. But I mean, if you think about it from a Utah fan's perspective, our players were still in shell shock that they were on the field at this point because they thought the game was over 6 times. So they're like, what are we doing out here? And then they, get cooked. And it's like, you just got to lock in, man. I mean, you have 60 yards to protect yourself from losing by a field goal, and you couldn't do it. That's what I came away with, was the better team won. They found a way to win. That's what good teams do. And just kind of like the Indiana game. They didn't look good. It didn't look great, but a win's a win, and it helps you as far as that picture of heading into the postseason.
Yeah, exactly. A win-win.
Yep. And speaking of a win being a win, Notre Dame smoking Florida State 52-3. Nothing really to see here. I mean, this is just it's gotten to the point where it's just like, oh my God, they're already dead. Quit stabbing them. Like, holy crap! Like, it's just a nightmare for Florida State fans. And I think a lot of them checked out like 4 weeks ago, but we don't get to check out. We don't get to not, witness at least it coming across the ticker at the bottom of the screen. But boy, is it a disaster. Anything to take away from this at all?
Hey, fuck Florida State. Fuck them. I know you don't like Florida State. No one likes Florida State. Fuck them.
I mean, yeah, no, I'm kind of on that bandwagon of I'm gleefully watching this, but it's bad, and it just no surprise with the final result there. Moving on to the number 11 team in the country, Alabama. Now remember, these rankings from last week, so if they're not number 11 now, don't look at me, as I'm just looking at the scoreboard as it's presented to me from last week. Alabama 42, LSU 13. This was kind of shocking to me, Zach. I thought this game would be a little bit more competitive, but this Alabama defense, like we've said with all these other teams, has gotten significantly better in the last 5 weeks, and you saw it on full display.
Yeah, Jalen Milroe looked absolutely stunning. I'm thinking number one pick in the NFL draft type stunning. The dude had 12 carries, 185 yards, and 4 touchdowns on top of all of his passing stats. I mean, we're talking about 4 rushing touchdowns from this guy. It was an insane game from him, a legacy type performance, the performance that's going to get him into that draft, into that first round. I 100% think he's going to be the number one pick.
Yeah, two out of the top 3 mock drafts right now have Travis Hunter going 1 and Shedeur Sanders going 2. I found that out. So so we'll see how that goes. I don't think it's going to shake out that way, but that's what many sports books and stuff have that as the top 2 picks in the NFL draft.
Yeah, that's whack. I don't know who has the first pick.
First pick would be. Why am I drawing a blank on this? Holy fuck me! Is it the? It's not the Raiders. It is. Jacksonville right now has the top pick, so they're supposed to select Travis Hunter, and then they have the Giants selecting Shedeur Sanders. They have Jalen Milroe going to the Las Vegas Raiders at number 5.
Yeah, I think that Jalen Milroe will likely go number 2 to the Giants. I don't think that Jacksonville is going to take a quarterback. They have no reason to. I would prefer that they probably would want. If I'm Jacksonville, I would draft Ashton Genty, but I guess that's not going to happen. Travis Hunter is a great football player, but if we're being honest, he is having an average wide receiver season combined with an average defensive back season. And while that's really impressive playing both sides of the ball, I don't think it's number one pick material. We've seen people play both sides of the ball before. And I think that this is just a product of the Colorado, situation right now, where, the media is definitely overblowing the importance of Colorado right now and the talent of Colorado. And they're just not as good as, the media wants people to believe. And that causing mock drafts to try to pressure teams into taking Shedeur and, Travis, as the top 2 picks. I think that that's just trying to, sell a nice little story and, print headlines for. That's not good football.
Yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. We'll have full NFL draft coverage like we did last season. We all know the biggest surprise last season was the Michael Penix at number 7 or whatever for the Falcons. We'll see if we have any surprises this year. We'll keep you guys locked in with that. Speaking of Ashton Genty, Boise State escapes a possible upset from Nevada 28-21. A couple weeks ago, I said circle this game. I know Nevada doesn't have a good record, but they always give Boise State a fight, and boy, did they. They had a chance to get the job done, and in the end, the better team, like I said, won the football game. 200 yards for Genty on 34 touches and 3 touchdowns. What was your takeaway from this other than his performance?
I mean, is there any other takeaway?
No, I was just
Besides the
wondering if you had anything.
No, I really don't. I mean, the man had 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, this is Boise State right now. This is college football, and I'm going to be so disappointed because I'm starting to feel like he's not going to win the Heisman because of media bias, and I hate it because he's having statistically probably the greatest college football season we've ever fucking seen.
Yeah, he's doing work. We'll see, like you said, if it ends up with the Heisman Trophy right now. Obviously, Travis Hunter, the favorite on DraftKings to win the Heisman, followed by a tie between Ashton Genty and Dylan Gabriel. So we'll see how that shakes out. The number 17 team in the country, who probably isn't ranked anymore, I don't think. Iowa State lost to Kansas 45-36, which means my sportsbook pick of Kansas +2 comes through in a big way, Zach. What was your takeaway from Kansas getting the job done at home by 9?
I mean, it just looked like a great football team. Looked like something they hadn't looked like all year. Something that I kind of thought they were going to look like going into this year, and I think you agree with me.
Yeah.
I think that we thought that this is the kind of offense that they could put out against decent teams in the Big 12, and we thought that they would be able to possibly even sneak into that Big 12 championship. And I think this proves it. I think this proves that they were capable of that. They just had a really, really bad.
Yeah, really bad year compared to where we thought the Jayhawks might be, but a good win for them. And what does this say about Iowa State, Zach? Is this officially like you were frauds and we knew it kind of territory, or is this just, again, it's teams giving you your best shot because they know if they beat you, it's over?
I think this is more of like we knew that defense wasn't actually that good.
All right, yeah, I think I think that's probably correct, and they got exposed. So
We said it. We said Iowa State's going to get exposed. I didn't think it'd be this game.
No.
But we said that Iowa State was going to get exposed, and they were going to get exposed bad, and that's what's going to happen. And let's see, 7-2. I'll be surprised if they finish the season with 8 wins.
Yeah, not looking good for the trajectory of the Cyclones. Moving on to the number 18 team in the country. Big shocker here. Nobody had this happening. I sure didn't. Virginia beats Pitt 24-19. And this game was not as competitive as that score dictates, Zach. This thing was 24-13. They didn't get the 2-point conversion, Pitt, in the end, to try to make it a 3-point game. That's why it's such a weird score. Anything to take away from this?
Nothing really. Besides, great upset, but was Pitt ever really that good in the first place? They haven't looked great. They haven't really had someone come out and be like a great player for Pitt. No one's really standing out in the receiving core. No one's standing out in the running game. It's just, I'm not a fan, and I didn't think that they were the 18th best team in the country last week, and they definitely aren't this week.
Yeah, they're the Iowa State of the ACC. It was fool's gold. And speaking of gold, black and gold, by the way. Colorado, the win over Texas Tech on the road, 41-27. This game, again, was a lot closer than the final score. A strip sack fumble recovery ended this game. It was a 7-point game up to that point, and with under like a minute to go, that's what happened. Shiloh Sanders recovers a fumble in the end zone, and that kind of sealed it. But Texas Tech did have a shot, and this, like you said, opens the door for Colorado to possibly play for a Big 12 championship. And I said before the season started I wasn't going to take the over on the win total because I wasn't going to get cooked again, and boy, I got cooked again. But it's kind of bittersweet for me because I wanted this team to be good last year. I'm glad that they're decent this year, but I still don't think they're the best team in the Big 12.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And, they're continuing to get good wins. The tortillas were flying. But, yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't think that they're a top team in the Big 12, but it's looking like they might play in this Big 12 championship.
They could win it. I mean, this is a situation where they could win.
A lot of playoff predictions are having them as the number 4 team in the country going into the playoffs due to the group of 4 teams or the power 4 teams getting in.
Well, because right now it would be BYU, right? You would be playing BYU, and
I would think so. BYU, probably BYU and Colorado. That's the matchup right now.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is if you're telling me who I would think was winning that game, I probably wouldn't pick BYU to win it. I just think that
Yeah, I'm probably thinking Colorado.
yeah, which is crazy. But I think we're finally to that point here at the tail end of the season where shit like this can happen. So we'll see what happens. I still have Oklahoma State playing spoiler on the road, baby. Let's go. It's fucking Smith time down there and still up there in Stillwater. We'll see if they travel well over to Boulder in late November. I really think that is going to be a trap game for Colorado, and I think it'll be OSU's first win in Big 12 play. Mark it down. Things are going to get weird. But
that would be a spoiler.
Yeah, so I like that spot for them, especially if Oklahoma State continues to play the freshman quarterback over Bowman. He's significantly better, and it's a shame that Mike Gundy did not pull the trigger on that 6 weeks ago. I think this team would have won multiple games if they had done it, and that's not even their good freshman because Zane Flores is out with surgery the rest of the year, so that's technically their third string freshman quarterback, and he looked way good against TCU late. So that's why I'm throwing that out there. But we'll see if Mike Gundy continues to roll with the kid.
Yeah, I think he should.
I agree. Washington State gets another win. They're 5-0 in the Pac-2. They beat Utah State 49-28. And people are picking the Cougars to possibly slip into the CFP if they win out as one of the group of 5 teams that possibly could be vying for a spot here. Is this a reality for Washington State fans that they should be thinking about, or is this just kind of like this is what you get for not being in a conference?
I think this is kind of what you get for not being in a conference. I mean, no quality wins, that's for sure. Yeah, I don't think even if they went out, I don't think they even sniff playoffs.
Yeah, it would take a couple of these other a group of 5 teams to lose. You'd have to have Boise State probably lose their conference championship. You'd have to have Army get destroyed by Notre Dame and lose to Navy probably as well to kind of ease your way in there. But if you look at Washington State's season, Zach, the quality win that they've got right now is probably Texas Tech. I mean, that's probably your quality win. Your only other loss is to Boise State, which looks good on paper, but when you look at the rest of these wins, it's not very impressive. But if you can beat New Mexico, Oregon State, and Wyoming to finish the season, it's going to be hard for me to say that they shouldn't have a shot if Boise State were to lose. It's going to take Boise State losing to give them even a chance. But they've got to take care of business and got to hope for some anarchy. But I wouldn't say that odds are 0.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Odds definitely aren't 0. I just don't think that they're very high at all. You just don't have the schedule.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's just kind of how it goes. Clemson gets the win over Virginia Tech, Zach, 24-14. All the points for Clemson coming in the second half. They were down 7-0 at halftime. Anything to take away from that?
No, nothing really. They should have won by more. Clemson's still, unfortunately, a contender in the ACC, even though they're starting to look uglier and uglier as the season goes on.
Yeah, a lot of. I think they're kind of catching a little bit of an injury bug. I could be wrong about that, but I think they are right. I don't know which side of the ball, but I feel like that was something I was hearing or something while I was flipping through and watching them last week. I think there was something going on with that, but I could be wrong. And then to end it out here, Zach, a bookend box score for Army. They score 1 touchdown in the first and 1 in the fourth, and that was enough to beat North Texas 14-3. Not a huge stat game. I mean, their quarterback, Mr. Daly, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns on 36 carries. He's been doing that all season. But again, kind of an unimpressive victory here for the Black Knights, right?
Yeah, another unimpressive one, but another victory nonetheless. And, currently 9-0. Get a couple more wins. Even if they lose to Notre Dame, they can still sneak in, especially if it's a close loss.
Yeah, I'm hoping for good news there. Well, it's time. We're gonna wrap it up here with this one, and we're gonna hand it over to you. Missouri gets the win over Oklahoma 30-23, a last-second touchdown off of a fumble recovery into the end zone. when the game was tied, seals the fate for the Sooners after they had gotten a scoop and score just 2 minutes prior to that, and then a 59-second drive by Drew Pine, who had 143 yards, 3 touchdowns, and completed over 50% of his passes. Xavier Robinson, 9 carries, 56 yards for the Sooners. All of that coming most of it coming in the fourth quarter on a drive down the field to tie the football game, which ended with a Taylor Tatum pass to Jackson Arnold for a touchdown. Jackson Arnold receives the touchdown and runs in with it. Theo Weiss was your hero offensively for the Tigers, 4 catches, 70 yards, and most importantly, 2 touchdowns, the second one coming with under 2 minutes to go to tie it with a toe tap in the back of the end zone. That was one of the more impressive catches that I've seen this season. I mean, he squeaked that thing in there on third and goal from the 16-yard line. Go ahead, Zach, and kind of break this down for me. The Sooners against the wall here, looking at bowl eligibility, having to go through Alabama and LSU to end the season. A lot of people are chalking both of those games up as L's, and so people think this team is not going to go bowling for the first time in 26 seasons. Go ahead and just kind of give me your thoughts on how things shook out on the road for the Sooners.
Yes, I don't know how much of this is going to be analysis, as much of it's going to be a rant. And my simple, my first, following this game are, I want heads rolling. I need people fired. I need a complete reset of the Oklahoma football program as a whole. So what I was looking at was a team that had a football game almost a certain won. And they could have easily sealed this away if they had just played disciplined football. And, we can talk about that last play. We can talk about Jackson Arnold fumbling on whatever the fuck that was he was trying to do in that last couple seconds. But more importantly, we have to talk about the fact that we had to do a scoop and score in order to recover from the fact that we allowed them to get a 57-second drive to just eviscerate our defense down the field. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for our defense not being ready in that situation. That's what they're supposed to be there for, is those game-winning drive situations, those game-time, drive situations where they can play defense and they can ensure that Drew Pine, our quarterback, isn't able to lead a drive that quickly. And I think this is a testament to why it might be bigger than an offensive coordinator, Seth Luttrell, Joe John Finley issue. It might be a Brent Venables issue. When you're looking at the fact that this team, we should have won this game based on all the injuries. We should have won it. And it just couldn't happen because our defense didn't come through when they needed to, and our offense is just making terrible, terrible mistakes. I think this is a Brent Venables issue. I'm really starting to, based on the fact that a lot of the issues are fumbles, turnovers. Those are discipline things. Protect the ball. Simple things that shouldn't even have to be said. Jackson Arnold letting it go backwards like that. That's just. When's the last time you've seen that? I mean, that's a terrible, terrible fumble, especially in that situation. You gotta throw the ball out, like something. You don't fumble it right there. You just don't give them that opportunity to run it back like they did. Just a terrible game. I'm looking forward to these next 2 games against Alabama and LSU, and I'm thinking we're going to get probably beat by 100 and combined by both of those games, right? I don't see any possibility that we beat Alabama. I can see a remote possibility that we beat LSU because they haven't looked that good either. However, I don't see that happening even in the slightest. So yeah, we're probably looking at a 5-7 team, and I think, we said this at the beginning of the season. This team is either going to surprise people and go, 11-1, or they're going to be a 5-7 team. And I think that they're probably going to end up being a 5-7 team, but for a different reason than we thought. And I think it's mostly due to injuries. I think you'd probably agree with that. But the fact that our coaching staff hasn't been able to overcome these injuries and has been playing, terrible against these teams that we should be beating, there's just no excuses.
No, I think that's probably the right way to look at this. From my perspective, right, as someone who's not a fan but goes to a lot of games, has access like that to opportunities to go see these games and be around the program as long as I have due to just living around here. Um, it's not a good look right now. Um, but here's where you can start, bashing me. I really think that going into this Alabama game with a bye week this week, and the way the offensive line played, particularly on that last drive with just the pieces, because remember, you all were missing 3 offensive linemen heading into that game, and you're going to get some of those guys back. And I think you found another running back with Xavier Robinson that can give you something that Sawchuk hasn't, that Barnes hasn't been able to, Franklin hasn't been able to, Tatum hasn't really been consistently able to. I think that maybe you finally found somebody to try and slice up an SEC defense a little bit better than the other 3 that you've been trying out more often. I think that Jackson looked a lot better than he had previously. I mean, you look at the fumble on the opening drive, he recovered it, that's fine. You look at the fumble late, no pocket presence. He said post-game, I was trying to throw it away. I should have thrown it away earlier. I know I should have. I didn't know he was behind me. And he knocked it out, and it's just a mistake you can't make. He owns up to it because that's his responsibility. But my opinion on that whole entire drive was just play for overtime. Just play for overtime. I don't know why you're even throwing it. Just hand it off, get into OT. I know it sucks, but I think that they were trying to force a win where they just should have just been like, look, great drive by Drew Pine. They got the momentum. Let's kneel this thing out. They're not using their timeouts, and we'll just go into OT and take our chances. I didn't like where they were at going into OT, but I would have given them a better shot of getting the job done than I would have with a Drew Pine-led offense for Missouri. If this was Brady Cook, I'd have a different opinion. But I think that with Drew Pine back there, you can have one good drive. He just chose that drive to be the one good drive out of the whole entire game, in my opinion. And I think that you should have taken your chances with a short field. That helps your defense out. It makes it harder for a guy like him. He's not a very good quarterback. I think that they really blew an opportunity here to get a win even with allowing that short drive. I think that they really played into Missouri's hands by being like, well, maybe we can line up for a field goal. No. None of that. You're backed up with 75 yards to go with under a minute to go. Hand it off, milk the clock, and go into OT. That was my only thing about it. And, I think that if they would have lost in OT, sure, that's bad, but I don't think anybody would have been advocating for them to push the ball down the field with 43 seconds left. The way that offense had been playing that previous drive, I think, gave them a little bit more confidence than they should have, because that drive before went really, really well, and they were like, well, maybe we can just force it down their throat again. And I think it was more of a Xavier Robinson surprise drive than it was anything else.
Yeah, so how are you from the outside looking in about Brent Venables right now in his situation?
Say what?
How are you feeling from the outside looking in? How are you feeling on Brent Venables' situation now?
I think you're on the same. I think we're on the same page with people have to be fired, but I think that we both know that it's not going to be BV. We know that they're keeping him at least till next season. I don't know what the difference between. If the difference between 44 million and 38 million is really the problem. I think it's more of Joe Castiglione is not trying to turn you guys into Nebraska or one of these teams that fires coaches way too willy-nilly. He wants to make sure that he made a mistake. And I think that he's giving BV this time. He knows that if we stick with him, image-wise, it's going to look better, because I don't think if you fire him at the end of the year, even if you get torched these next 2 weeks, like if you get embarrassed 2 weeks in a row, some people are like, then you got to let him go. I don't think you do. I just think for the last 3 or 4 weeks I've been saying it. It's just there's too many weird things going on to justify letting him go after this season for sure. And I think if you're thinking that, you're a little bit squirrely with it. I think fans that are itching for that, or faithful that have watched this team for 50 plus years that are in the older demographic, they're angry with it. They know they should be better. But if you know you should be better, and you know the injury circumstances, and you still think that this team should be able to overcome that and be an 8 or 9 win ball club. That's just not the reality of college football currently. And we've discussed the problem with NIL and what it does to teams' depth. And I think that old heads and diehards are just going to have to get used to the fact that if your starters get hurt, it's not good.
That's probably true now. But if he can't, like you said, if he can't prove it, turn it around that season, then yeah, I think we're looking at him getting fired at the end of that season.
Yeah, I think most people are on that page of I think $38 million they'd be able to scrounge up. And like I said, I don't think it's the money that's the problem.
I mean 9 wins. You don't get 9 wins, you're fired. That's how I'm feeling.
I think it'll depend on who leaves. Whoever leaves the portal and who they can bring in is going to really dictate how I feel about this team going into next season. If they lose big significant pieces to the portal and can't bring in guys from other Power 5 schools to fill those holes, that's not good, because we already saw what it was like to get group of 5 guys to come in and try to fill these holes on the offensive line. That's not good enough for the SEC. You can't do that. You got to get guys that are in these Power 5 conferences that have played stiff competition, because that's where we're at now. And if they can't fill holes of people leaving with guys like that, then you're going to be looking at 6 or 7 wins max.
Well, that's the problem. If he can't deliver 9 wins, no matter the circumstances, I don't care who's recruiting, that's on him. It's on him to make sure that we get the right guys. It's on him to make sure we're paying them the correct NIL, and it's ultimately the program's direction is all on him. So if they don't get 9 wins in that season, I don't care what the circumstances are. I think you fire them. I don't care if we don't get anybody in the portal and we lose a bunch of guys. 9 wins or you're out.
Yeah, the recruiting class is looking good. You've got a lot of recommitments from O-line recruits that are coming in. So I think that's a good sign. I think you will. I think 8 wins is acceptable. I think, especially with the schedule they've got next year, I think that's very acceptable. You got to travel to Tuscaloosa. You got to travel, to South Carolina. You got to travel to Tennessee. I think that schedule is shaping up to be rough, and you've got Michigan to start the season in the Big House. Or are they coming here first?
I think we're there.
Yeah, so
that's the thing. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, and that's and that's like I said, that's coming from a perspective of somebody that's more invested in the team than me, and I get that. I totally get that sentiment.
Yeah, the standard's just high here. It's in one. If you're not a continuous national championship contender, you're out of there in a couple of years. It's just that simple. And Brent Venables hasn't produced a national championship caliber team yet. I get it. He came in at a rough situation. Lincoln Riley guided the team. Not to mention the fact, COVID kind of played a huge part in how he was able to, play guys. Then, obviously, the transition into the SEC, it's a tough one. It's a tough situation. Yes, got a lot of wins last year. That was a better team, but let's be honest, that was probably more Dylan Gabriel than anything. It was probably more Jeff Levy than anything. The defense looked good. The defense looked even better this year, but no offense is terrible. So it's just the standard. I don't necessarily think Brent Venables is a bad coach. I don't necessarily think he's the wrong guy for the job. The bottom line is, though, if you don't produce a 9-10 win season pretty soon, right now, you're going to end up losing the fan base, and once those ticket sales drop, it's over.
Yeah, good points all around there. Good points. All right, Zach, I know we've been waiting to talk about this for a little bit. Time for Thunder update time, baby, and things are looking like the injury bug's biting us good. Chet Holmgren down for 8 to 10 weeks with a broken hip, and Hartenstein's still gone. You got J-Dub playing the 5, but the wins keep rolling in for the Thunder regardless, which says just a testament to how scrappy this team is defensively and how good depth-wise and shooting-wise this team is. Dwight Howard has reached out. He wants to be picked up. I don't think that's going to happen. But what are your thoughts right now for the Thunder now that we're kind of waiting for Hartenstein to get back to have a big? Is this something that you see that's going to continue to create problems, or is this one of those things where Dagnall's proven that, hey, playing small is just as good as playing big? We're fine with getting cooked inside as long as we can play 5 out.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is that they're not necessarily playing small. They have, they don't have a center, and they're playing, short guys. They're taller, shorter guys. The tallest guys on the court are like 6'7". But the best part is all about 6'5" to 6'7". So, the pretty good height and pretty mid-sized team. The problem is they just don't have a lot of differentiation among them. There's not a 7-footer sitting at the rim, and I think that's shown in our offensive rebound percentage. That's shown in our rebounding in general. The same problem we had last year. We're not getting a ton of rebounds because we don't have a center right now, but it's not really affecting us too much in the terms of producing, making shots, and defending shots. And even if they're getting second chance opportunities, we're playing defense well enough. We're getting steals, we're getting blocks at a high enough rate that it's working. So I think that this team is just that good right now, and I think Jalen Williams is doing a really good job, kind of filling in that role, playing center right now. In fact, if you play with him on ESPN Fantasy, you can play him as a center now. He has been upgraded to that position. So he's been playing just fine. Once Hartenstein gets back, I think we're going to see a real leap in the team. I think most of the losses are still going to come from this period, though, leading up until Hartenstein's return. I just don't see us being able to sustain this level of success after a couple of teams get some more film on a Thunder playing without a center.
Yeah, it's been rough. Right now, though, Thunder are winning against the Phoenix Suns 43-27. Of course, no Kevin Durant, no Bradley Beal, no Grayson Allen for Phoenix. So again, just like last season, the Thunder end up playing these really good teams, but just like last year, they don't have their main guys. I think it's just really funny how 2 years in a row, thus far, the Thunder have gotten lucky with these big marquee games not having the starters all there for the teams that aren't the Thunder. So I think that's an interesting development and could, like you said, lead still to a good win total for this team and it's still a number 1 seed regardless of the injury situation.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I've said before, I think this team can win 70 games. I don't necessarily think that anymore with the injury situation, but they're still definitely in the position to be able to be the number 1 seed, going into the playoffs once again. And I would say probably even favorites for the championship.
Yep, and we'll keep you guys up to date as that path continues throughout the NBA season. But now it's time for one of my favorite segments. Cue the NFL Films music, baby. It's big deal or no big deal when it comes to the NFL this previous week. All right, we'll start out with the Thursday night game that we covered last time. Ravens get the win over the Bengals 35-34. Big deal, not big deal, Zach?
And not really a big deal. It was a fun game. Obviously, we had a huge performance from Jamar Chase. I mean, a life-changing performance from Jamar Chase. It was just a beautiful 264 yards, if I remember right. Just amazing. If you play with him on fantasy, that dude had 55 points on fantasy.
59 fantasy
for some
points.
Yeah, he had 55 in the league I'm playing in right now. Joe Burrow put up a masterful performance. He threw the ball 56 times, which is insane, but still 428 yards, 4 touchdowns. Just an overall great, fantastic performance by Cincinnati. And then they lose the football game to the Baltimore Ravens by 1 point due to the fact that Lamar Jackson is just Cincinnati's father.
Yeah, he has a very good record against the Bengals, and that continued in thrilling fashion. Moving on to Sunday's games, the Patriots get the win over the Bears 19-3. Drake May brings New England their 3rd win of the season. The Bears drop to 4-5. Big deal, no big deal?
Not really a big deal to me whatsoever. I think both these teams are mid. I'm not a huge fan of either of these teams right now, so no, not a big deal at all. I think Patriots look a little bit better. I think Drake May is starting to look better and better, which I think is promising if you're a Patriots fan. But not as good as some of the other young quarterbacks in the league, like Bryce Young.
Yeah, Bryce Young out there in Germany getting the win over the Giants 20-17. Big deal, not big deal?
A big deal, of course. Bryce Young getting football wins in the NFL is a big deal now, and he's starting to look a little bit better. And I think he's probably secured his spot as the starter going forward in the next season. The question is, do they draft a quarterback?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye, an ear to the ground on that one. Big story from that game for me was Chuba Hubbard, though. 28 carries, 153 yards, and a touchdown for the former Oklahoma State Cowboy. Carried the Panthers to that victory with a little bit of help from Bryce Young. Moving on to the Colts and Bills game. Joe Flacco loses his starting job because of this performance, but the Bills only win by 10, 30-20. Big deal, no big deal.
No big deal really. I think Josh Allen played significantly well. Other than that, no.
Yeah, I think this is more about the downfall of Joe Flacco. Neither quarterback, I don't believe, well, Joe Flacco had one, but Josh Allen, no throwing touchdowns, just 2 picks. He did carry. Yeah, he did carry for a touchdown. Didn't he have 2, or did he have just 1?
I think it was just 1.
Okay, yeah, but he scored, but it wasn't through the air. That was kind of the bigger story for me, but I don't think this hurts the Bills' chances as far as being Super Bowl contenders. They're still probably in the top 5 or 6 teams I would pick to have a chance, and a good win for them on the road. Chiefs, they block a last-second punt by the Broncos. Bo Nix set them up beautifully. They continue to be undefeated, 9-0. Big deal, not big deal.
They got to be doing some devil magic or something. This is a big deal. They had to perform a satanic ritual or something in order to pull this off. How do they keep getting away? How do they keep getting away with blocking it? Are you kidding me? You blocked the game-winning kick? I hate that. That's no way. No, the most fraudulent 9-0 team I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, they are.
Get that shit away.
Yeah, they're skating on thin ice as far as continuing to win games, but good teams continue to win games. The special teams coordinator after the game said, we saw the left side of the line the last 3 or 4 games in film. That specific guy that got pancaked was getting pushed back 3 or 4 yards by other teams, and so they just loaded up on him and ran him over. And I guess good coaching, but I'm pretty sure that they kicked another. Oh, they did? Okay, that was their only field goal attempt of the game. So I was going to say if they attempted another one, they didn't do it on that one. But no, I think it's just good coaching. It's just unfortunate for the Broncos to not be able to seal that thing, but just good coaching.
Yeah, good coaching, but God damn it.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't make me not hate it. It doesn't make me not hate it. I'm just, it's just like, you got to be kidding me type shit. Saints get the win over the Falcons 20-17. Kirk O'Chains loses one. The Saints improve to 3-7. They get their first win in 6 or 7 weeks, something crazy. Big deal, no big deal.
Not really a big deal, in my opinion. I think the Falcons got a new coach or something.
I think so. I want to say yes. I don't know enough about. I don't care enough about the Falcons to know.
I think the Saints.
Yes, the Saints do have an interim coach. I thought you said the Falcons. No, the Saints. Yes,
I did. The Saints. Yeah, the Saints have a new coach.
Yeah, and he got to win. Got to win. So good for the Saints there. 49ers escape the Buccaneers 23-20. Baker Mayfield, a fantastic play against Nick Bosa on 4th and 7 to keep the Buccaneers drive alive. They were helped after that by 3 consecutive penalties, but couldn't get the touchdown. Had to settle for a field goal, and that's what ended up cooking them. Big deal, no big deal.
Big deal. I think we're looking at Baker, and I'm seeing. All right, maybe I'm tripping. I'm seeing a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. What do you think?
Right now, I think that's correct. I think he's playing at that level right now. I think the 4 other guys you would take ahead of him are pretty significantly ahead of him as far as, talent and stuff, but he's working with what he's got. And remember, this Buccaneers team still doesn't have a rush offense. Its defense is god awful. He's playing technically with a Lincoln Riley team without a run game. And no Mike Evans as well. That game against the 49ers, got to throw that out there. That's a big loss for them. And so the fact,
Chris Godwin.
Yeah, and no Chris Godwin either. So Bucky Irving, in my opinion, is the takeaway from here. He's been the best running back for this team. He's been catching balls out of the backfield. He's been running it better than any other running back they've got. I think that Bucky Irving will be one of the best running backs in the league in the next 3 or 4 years. I think he's establishing himself right now. I liked him when he was playing for my Ducks. I liked him at Minnesota before that. He's a good running back, and I think that if they can get some offensive linemen in the draft, this Buccaneers team will once again be competing for a Super Bowl soon.
Yeah, I think you're correct there. And look, I know they're 4-6. I know it's not looking great right now, but I think you have faith in Baker to be able to take this team. In 2 or 3 years, this team could really be Super Bowl contenders if they can figure it out on defense, because they already got the running back of the future, like you said.
Yeah, I think the defense is another obvious, scar on this Buccaneers team. We'll see if they can get it fixed. This Buccaneers team still could get to a wild card game. That's all it took last season, and I think they still have an opportunity to do that. So don't count them out of being a playoff team this season, but definitely not a contender this season for a Super Bowl. But I still think that the Buccaneers will be a playoff team. And I don't think anybody wants to play them. I'll throw that in. I don't think anybody wants to play them either.
Yeah, nobody wants to play this team. They can play spoiler, especially if they sneak into the playoffs.
All right, moving on. The Steelers get the win over the Commanders 28-27. Russell Wilson's pass to Mike Williams is the game winner for Pittsburgh. Big deal, no big deal?
I want to say no big deal. It's just nothing about this game was really impressive to me, other than the fact that Jane Daniels just didn't look very good.
Yeah,
he's starting to have kind of a mid-season slump, I think.
Yeah, I think the rookie magic's starting to kind of fade a little bit for the Commanders, and they're feeling that right now for sure. But a big win for the Steelers. They improved to 7-2. They still look like one of the better teams in their division. And again, this is without Justin Fields being their quarterback, who was also winning games. So I think it just proves that the Steelers have depth at the quarterback position, and that whatever happens injury-wise or whatever, they're not concerned. I think that's a big luxury to have.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be a luxury that no longer exists next season. So
yeah, I agree.
They better cherish it while they can.
Yep, agree. Vikings, they escape the Jags 12-7. Sam Darnold threw 3 picks, 2 of those in the end zone. And no touchdowns for the Vikings, all field goals all the way through. And does this just mean the Jags are just super ass? I mean, you're gifted that many turnovers. I know that they were playing with Mac Jones as their quarterback, which I had to laugh at. The absolute I believed for a little bit. I'm glad I didn't. Big deal, no big deal.
I would say big deal. I think that this shows that the Vikings do have vulnerabilities, and I think that vulnerability is Sam Darnold. And we weren't necessarily thinking that at the beginning of the season when he looked good, but 3 interceptions against Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville is not a good football team. I think we both know that. Yeah, I think this is a big deal. It shows that the Vikings aren't nearly as scary as we once thought, even though, they still have a decent record. I don't think that's going to stay necessarily.
I'm going to say big deal for the opposite reason. I think it proves that the Vikings don't need Sam Darnold to play good to beat really bad teams when you need to. And I think that also is another angle you can take is
points?
That's all field goals. That's all field goals. And that means your defense is still good. The defense is still good for Minnesota. But again, you're playing Mac Jones, the starting quarterback. I mean, the defense should shut him out. You should shut him out. And they did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this shows the vulnerability of the Vikings. If they win against a semi-decent team, they lose this game.
Oh, for sure. But again, a win's a win. And, it only takes one bad week. And if this is a bad week for the Vikings, I'll take that. If I'm a Vikings fan, I'll take that. Chargers get the win over the Titans 27-17. Big deal, no big deal.
I'm going to say not really a big deal.
Yeah.
This is the mid-off.
Yep. Agree. Lions get the win over the Texans with a Jake Bates field goal to win it. They score 19 unanswered in the second half. They were down 23-7 at the half. Lions find a way to win. Jake Bates continues to be perfect kicking field goals this year. Big deal, no big deal.
I'm going to say big deal. Jared Goff threw how many interceptions?
5.
Like 5? Yeah, and still being able to get the win. That's pretty impressive. You got to give it to him. I think, it shows their resilience. It shows, the kind of coaching that I think Dan Campbell really puts out there. So, yeah, I'm going to say big deal for that reason, even though Jared Goff looks like shit.
Yeah, I think it proves that he's still the vulnerability for this team, possibly. But again, that's against a good team. That's pulling out a win against what most people would think is a good Texans team. Shutting them out in the second half after allowing 23 points is the impressive part for me. And like you said, I think that's mainly Dan Campbell's never quit attitude that just kind of emanates from the whole entire team. If he can get that message ingrained in their head, and then again, the Lions continue to be a favorite to get to the Super Bowl. I don't know if I still believe in them that much, but a good win nonetheless.
Yeah, good win.
Cardinals blow out the Jets 31-6. Aaron Rodgers looked like pee-pee poo-poo butthole, and the Jets continued to down spiral. Big deal, no big deal.
Lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. Cardinals beat the Jets 31-6. Aaron Rodgers looks bad. Big deal, no big deal.
I'm going to go ahead and say no big deal. I think those Jets are just bad. I think Aaron Rodgers is bad. It's time to retire. Hang him up, old man. Hang him up and go run for office or something like you really want to. Fucking sicko.
True. It's true. Last game before the Monday night game, Eagles get the win over the Cowboys 34-6. Cooper Rush, quarterback, first start for him. Not good. Big deal, no big deal.
I don't want to talk about it.
Fair enough. I'm gonna say no big deal. The Cowboys are tanking for Shedeur Sanders. It's over.
No, we should be fucking tanking for anyone except Shedeur Sanders. Fuck.
It's Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders time for Cowboys.
Please give me Jalen Milroe. Please, I want Jalen Milroe. All I want is Jalen Milroe. That's the only pause. Hold on, pause. It's the only draft pick I want is if it's not Jalen Milroe, I want Ashton Genty. It has to be one of those two. I want that gone. I know we can't get rid of him just yet. I know. Doesn't matter to me.
Fair. And the last game, Dolphins get the win over the Rams 23-15. Tyreek Hill with the game-winning catch, and they hold on to win by 8. Big deal, no big deal for the Dolphins getting their third win of the season.
And not really a big deal, I don't think. I think the Dolphins are bad. I think the Rams are also kind of bad. So yeah, mid-off on a Monday night. Yeah, I'm not feeling this game at all.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, and that will do it for big deal, no big deal. Week 11 done in the NFL, and that leads us to my favorite segment of the show, and yours too, folks. You know it's true. I know it's true, and it is show. It's best segment. It's the sports book, baby. We're looking at the sports book. We're pulling it up and cranking it down. It's time. And big ups for the sports book. Zach, do you even remember your pick from last week?
I don't remember what I picked.
Well, good news. I'm taking notes. And the good news is we both end up winners, folks. That's right, winners. Kansas comes through for me. Zach's pick comes through as well. Both of us have 2 picks this week now. We have 10 cents apiece to place, or you can place 20 cents on one pick, whatever you want to do. Heading into this week. Zach, what is your plan? Are you going to go all in on one, or are you going to split it up this week?
I think I'm going to go... I kind of want to go all in on one. Not going to lie. I want to go all in on one. You know what I'm looking at?
What are you looking at?
Kind of looking at this Penn State Purdue game. Penn State's, spreads 28.5. Do I think that they win by 5 touchdowns against Purdue?
Oh, that set seems a little. Why does that seem high after they got blown out by Ohio State by 45? You would think, oh yeah, it's State, but remember this is Penn State's offense, not Ohio State. So I think you might be onto something here.
I'm gonna try something a little bit safer. I think I'm gonna split it into 2 games. I'm gonna go Texas to cover 12.5 against Arkansas. Okay. I'm gonna take that. That's 10 cents right there. Okay. And then I think my other 10 cents. I think I'm gonna look at. I'm I'm going to take South Carolina to cover the 13.5 against Missouri.
South Carolina. South Carolina. Minus 13.5 against Missouri. Parlaying those together with your 20 cents, you would have 72 cents. So that would give you a full slate of games if you could pull that parlay off. So there are your picks. I am going to actually go all in, baby. We're going all in. I'm just picking one game. We're rolling with this right now, and I think this is a good spot to do it. No, I was perusing through the games this week, and I was thinking, why not continue with the wagon? Give me the Jayhawks plus the 2.5 over BYU. You know what? Wow. Fuck that. Give me Kansas money line. Kansas money line all the way to the house. Double my money. Double or nothing. Give me Kansas to beat the Cougars and play spoiler. 2 weeks in a row, this team is going to look like the team we thought they were going to be. And sure, they're not going to make a bowl game, but fuck. They're going to ruin BYU's perfect season. It won't necessarily negate them from college football playoff contention due to the fact they'll probably still be in the Big 12 championship game, but it will be a big win for Kansas on the road nonetheless, and it's a night game. So give me all the bad juju, but give me the Jayhawks in their icy whites to get it done.
Wow, I can't believe that. That's insane. That's psychotic behavior.
I would tell myself that if they didn't play so well last week. If they, I just gotta keep going with the wagon. 2.5 is a magic number. It looks like plus 2.5 is a magic number for Jayhawks, and I am going to continue. And I'm just gonna go straight up money line. That's plus 110 on the money line, and that will do it, Mr. Zach. Any final thoughts before we get out of here and head into a bye week for local teams here? But I've got Wisconsin this weekend at Wisconsin. In the what? The Campbell, what is it? Doak Campbell? Is that what it is?
No, I don't know.
Something. It's something Campbell. So have fun with that, Wisconsin Badgers fans. You can rip me for that. We don't care. We're gonna watch your fans file out at halftime. Oopsies. So any games you have your eye on this weekend? Do you want to talk about the big one, the Tennessee Georgia game? I'm going to be honest. I don't think this game's going to be competitive, and I think Georgia just smokes the shit out of them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Georgia's going to smoke the fuck out of them after seeing how Tennessee played against Oklahoma. I'm thinking Georgia can beat the shit out of that team.
Let me give you a couple lines that I'm looking at that look kind of interesting. New Mexico State plus 39.5 over Texas A&M. You like that?
I don't like that. I think A&M beats them about 50.
Okay. I didn't know how you're feeling about that one.
A&M's good, and it's in Cal Field.
Okay, I'll.
And it's a night game at Cal Field.
I'll concede that. There was one more I was looking at that looked a little quirky to me. Oh yeah, LSU minus 3.5 against Florida. Seems a little low to me.
Seems a little low to me. Maybe we should have taken that one right there, but Florida's been playing decent lately, so I don't know.
I don't know if decent is what you would call what happened to them last week.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the 3 weeks before that, they looked pretty decent.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, but I don't. I mean, 3.5 it seems like free money to me. Free money.
I think so.
But I wasn't.
I think so. But I mean, think about what they did against Kentucky. Think about how they put up 20 points against Georgia. Like, this is a decent team. They had a bad luck against Texas, but beat Kentucky, lose by 6 to Tennessee, beat UCF, beat Mississippi State, lose by 13 to Texas A&M. They do not have too many bad losses. They have bad losses to Miami, 41-17, and they have a bad loss to Texas, 49-17. This Florida team's not as bad as their record would indicate.
Maybe not. I still think 3.5 is low. I will let you in on a secret. I was gonna go Arkansas Kansas parlay money line. I was thinking that Arkansas could do it this week. I think this is. I think the Texas minus your pick I think is not bad. I don't think anybody would argue with you. I just think that if Arkansas doesn't turn the ball over, they have a good shot to stay in the game. And that'll be the big question. I just don't know if I trust them enough to made that decision, but it's interesting to think about. Who you got tonight between Arizona and Houston? This is a 1-point spread tonight. I know that people aren't going to see this until tomorrow, but what are your thoughts on that game?
Probably Houston, right? Are you thinking Houston? What are you thinking?
You know, is Arizona really that bad? Like, it's just shocking.
So.
It's just shocking to me that the downturn they've taken too. It's just stunning how bad Arizona, Utah, and Oklahoma State have been for teams that people thought were gonna be vying for Big 12 championship considerations, and they all just are at the bottom.
Yeah, it's a sad one. It's a sad reality we're in.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, the fact that the Thunder are still in.
All right, well, there it is. Episode 86 in the books, folks. We'll see you next week. We'll keep you updated on everything. Good night, Canada.